The US state of Texas has disregarded doctors' advice and announced it's lifting all social distancing rules from next Wednesday, even as it reports thousands of new coronavirus cases each day. Authorities say the move will revive the Lone Star State's economy and comes as President Joe Biden announces there'll be enough vaccines for every American adult by the end of May. Paolo Montecillo reports.
Texas has reported more than 7,000 coronavirus cases every day for the past week. So it's clear the disease isn't done with the state. But its leaders say they're done with COVID-19 and they're lifting all social distancing restrictions.
Too many small business owners have struggled to pay their bills. This must end. It is now time to open Texas 100%.
Officials are allowing places like restaurants and movie theaters to operate at full capacity. They're also lifting a statewide mask mandate, though businesses can still require it of their staff and customers.
We have all of our tables spread apart at a certain distance, which makes them feel comfortable, and everyone likes the idea that we require people to wear masks.
The state's decision gives businesses a chance to make up for hefty losses they've incurred in the past year. But health authorities say the move may prove costly in the long run as more contagious strains of COVID-19 spread in the U.S.
These variants are a very real threat to our people and our progress. Now is not the time to relax the critical safeguards that we know can stop the spread of COVID-19 in our communities.
The federal government is focusing on its vaccine rollout before it considers easing restrictions. Regulators this week approved the jab developed by Johnson & Johnson, and the White House says it's brokered a deal for drug giant Merck to start producing the vaccine. It's the third inoculation now available in the U.S. after Pfizer and Moderna.
We're now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May. Let me say that again. When we came into office, the prior administration had contracted for not nearly enough vaccine to cover adults in America. We rectified that.
More than 25 million Americans are already fully immunized against COVID-19. U.S. President Joe Biden says if the current pace of vaccinations continues, all American states will be able to reopen and, unlike Texas, do it safely by this time next year. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, let's go to Joann Weiner, who's an economics professor at George Washington University. She joins us from the US Capitol. Welcome back to the program, Professor. Now, there's obviously an economic imperative for states like Texas, Mississippi and others to really push to reopen their economies sooner rather than later. Can you just remind us, how has the pandemic impacted the US economy?
Oh, well, roughly a year since the pandemic was declared, has seen tremendous losses in jobs and in lives, of course, which is the most serious, and also in economic output. It does appear that we are opening up pretty well. Jobs are coming back, not back to where they were yet, but that signs are looking good. And a good part of that is because as the virus has come under control and we've gotten a vaccine, people feel more comfortable getting back out and doing commerce again. So things are looking good, but don't underestimate how bad we were hit in the past year around the world.
That's right. And as we heard from that story, President Joe Biden now says that there'll be enough vaccines for every adult to be vaccinated by the end of May, which is quite remarkable. Apparently, it's 2 months ahead of schedule. Tell us a bit more about how the rollout of these vaccines has really allowed for states like Texas and Mississippi and others to announce a relaxing of those social distancing restrictions.
Well, you know, those are sort of two questions. One is, will adults be able to be vaccinated? And the fact that they're now talking about the end of May instead of end of July is pretty remarkable. It's nice to get vaccines in people's arms. And I love that Dolly Parton video about singing vaccine to Jolene. The other part of it, though, is that just because people are able to get vaccinated doesn't mean that they already are. And one of the hardest parts that we're facing now, and I see it in Washington and when I talk with friends around the country, they're frustrated about not being able to go and get their first vaccine, even though they may be eligible. Dolly Parton herself admitted she's 75 years old, she's qualified to get it, but there are a lot of people who still are not able to get the vaccine. So while Texas has announced that they're fully open, that doesn't mean that someone has to go to a restaurant and eat in person. There still is some, as they say, personal responsibility to do what you feel comfortable with. That said, Texas does have nearly 4,000 to 5,000 new cases a day, so they have not ended the pandemic by any means.
While vaccines will help for the state's economies to reopen, we also know that many analysts believe that the economy is in dire need of more economic stimulus right now. And Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package still hangs in the balance. It still needs to pass the Senate. And even though the Democrats have that razor-thin majority of just one, it looks like some conservative Democrats may be balking at just how generous this package is. Can you tell us, how badly does the economy need this stimulus right now?
Well, the stimulus package is a good thing to be doing. Interest rates are very low. Acquiring more federal debt right now is not really something to worry about. The big issue is, do people have enough money to keep their homes, to put food on the table, and the essentials to keep going, pay their electricity bills? I understand that the latest round of the Biden $1.9 trillion package is going to be targeted a little bit better, the payments towards people who don't make as much money as others. And so that's probably a good thing. And one of the issues that conservatives are concerned about is that the payments may make it more economically better, make the person better off economically by getting the payment rather than going out to work. Now, that, of course, is tied to wage levels. And as you know, the U.S. is struggling with whether or not to increase the minimum wage. So there's a lot happening at one time, but I would be in favor of being more generous now and then scaling back later than the other way around.
Now, as we've been discussing, as more people get vaccinated, we are seeing this growing sense of optimism that the economic rebound across the US will be greater than previously thought. Are you as optimistic as what some other economists are thinking, that the US economy will bounce back quicker than previously thought?
I would like to be optimistic, and from what I'm looking at, I'm seeing that, yes, I think that we're going to come back quicker than we thought we would. But that actually isn't just my opinion. I participate in an economist survey through the National Association of Business Economists, and in general, we are more optimistic now than we were even a few months ago. And I think there's good reason for that, as we see factories coming back online. Take the auto industry, which had shut down because they thought people weren't going to buy cars. Well, it turns out people want to buy cars, so they don't have to take public transportation. And so getting those factories back producing will help, getting the economy growing faster than we thought it would be.
Okay, Professor Joann Weiner, we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much again for joining us on the program.